Yo, 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 what's good? You're tuned in to the Rebuild Project. Let's get locked in, baby. Let's rebuild. What's up, y'all? Welcome back to the Rebuild Project, here with Ep.3. I'm your host, Austin Poteet, and I just want to say thank you so much for all the support and love and feedback that I received on episode 1 and 2. Also, with all the support that I've received on my social medias as well, it's been overwhelming. It's a great feeling, honestly. So look, y'all, I ain't gonna lie, this one's heavy. And before I even dive in, let me make something very clear. I'm not here pushing politics. I don't care about red versus blue. I don't care about parties. I care about the people, y'all. I care about the people. My whole heart is about peace, about equality, about building systems that actually help people instead of breaking them. I sit back and I think about my niece and nephew, and, how I want them to grow up in a safe, free, world with, opportunities. I think about my wife and the kids we're going to have one day. I don't want them growing up in a world full of hate and violence and, division. I think about my brother who beat cancer and how fragile life is. I think about my dad who's gone and how losing somebody you love changes everything. And when I see the news, kids shot in schools, Trey Reed found hanging from a tree on a campus, Gaza bombed to rubble, voices silenced, families being torn apart, man, it breaks me. It honestly does. But look, it also fires me up. It pisses me the fuck off. Cause I don't want this podcast to just be noise, y'all. I want it to be love. I want it to be truth. I want it to be a brick in the rebuild. You get me? So yeah, this episode's gonna be raw as hell. It's gonna be loud. Some people might be offended, but most of all, it's gonna be from my heart, and that's all that matters. I sit back sometimes and I just ask, where's the love in this world? I feel like for so long, we've just been missing love. We got kids hiding under desks. We got mothers in Gaza burying their babies. We got a young black man like Trey Reed gone before his life even started. And this world just moves on. And I can't help but to make it personal. Like, what if that was my niece or nephew? What if that's my future son or daughter? What if that was my brother, my wife, my family? Will people still just, move on? Or would it finally matter? You see, that's the problem. Love has become so selective. Compassion has become conditional. And guys, look, until we fix that, until we make peace and equality the standard, we're stuck in this fucking broken cycle. And that's why I'm here. That's why the Rebuild Project exists. That's why I started. I don't want love to be an option. I want it to be the foundation. You feel me? Now, let me touch on this Charlie Kirk situation and his memorial service right quick. Y'all know me. I don't celebrate death, violence of any sort. I don't cheer for that shit. You know what I'm saying? I don't celebrate it. That just ain't my spirit. I had empathy for his wife and kids and everyone who was affected. Of course, I'm human. Cause losing a husband, losing a father, losing a friend, that shit sucks, bro. I know what the pain feels like. I lost my own dad, and death, no matter who the hell it is, leaves a hole in families. But look, let's just be real. Sympathy for Charlie himself? I mean, of course, I feel bad. Dude shouldn't have died for, speaking his truth. But I don't feel sympathy for him, personally. He spent too much of his life spreading hate and division. But like I said, it's not right for anyone to be murdered, especially over their views, regardless if we agree or disagree with them or not. But look, what broke my heart more than Charlie, though, was what that memorial service got turned into. That could have been a moment for grieving, for love, for healing. Instead, it turned into a circus, a stage for power, a rally for hate, and it made me realize how much we forgot about love for real. They went loud as hell for Charlie, y'all. But where was that love for Trey? Where's that love for Gaza? Where's that love for the kids in school? That ain't equality. That ain't peace. And that damn sure ain't no love. And now, Trey Reed, man, that one hit me deep. 21 years old, college kid in Mississippi, whole life ahead of him. And then he's found hanging from a tree on a college campus. Man, y'all know the officials. They was quick to say it was a suicide. Quick to say no foul play. Of course, the usual. But we've seen it. As a black man in America, we've seen this before. You know what I'm saying? We know the history. We know what a body hanging from a tree has always fucking meant. Trey's family deserves the truth, y'all. They deserve transparency. They deserve justice. And his name deserves to be honored, shouted, and remembered just like Charlie Kirk's. But yet, silence. No stadiums, no national vigils, no nonstop coverage, just whispers, bro. And I think about my brother. I think about how close I came to losing him to cancer for real, for real. That pain almost broke me, man. And that was with answers, with hope, with treatment. Trey's family doesn't even have answers, just silence. That's cruelty. That's that's inequality, y'all. When I say I want systems corrected, this is what I mean. Every life should matter the same. Every family should get the same fucking justice, the same coverage. That's equality. And then there's the school shootings, man. That shit really tears me up. I'll never forget the day the one happened in Nashville. And I spent the whole day just breaking down in tears, because I never imagined that it would happen that close to home. But who really imagined school shootings happening in the first place? Every time I see a headline, I picture my niece and nephews. I picture my future kids. I picture the little ones I meet at events and communities. And the thought of them texting from under a desk, hiding, hoping they don't die, that crushes me, bro, for real. But once again, what do? Thoughts, prayers, silence, and move on. That ain't fucking love, y'all. That ain't peace. And that damn sure ain't equality. Kids should be dreaming, not doing trauma drills. Parents should be planning birthdays, not fucking funerals. Teachers should be teaching, not training how to barricade a damn door. I want a system where kids ain't at war in their own classrooms, bro. Where parents don't live in fear every single fucking day they send their kid to school. That's what rebuilding means to me. And we can do it. We can do it. We just got to use our voice. And we got to rebuild. Rebuild, y'all. And then I look overseas at Gaza. And my heart breaks all over again. Families gone. Babies buried under rubble. Hospitals and schools wiped out. And I can't help to put myself there. What if that was my wife under that rubble? What if that was my nephew? What if that was the kids I dream about having one day, you know? Because look, at the end of the day, blood is blood, y'all. We all bleed the same. A child's blood is the same in Gaza as it is in Nashville. A mother's tears are the same in Mississippi as they are in Palestine. Humanity is humanity, period. And I don't want to argue sides. I don't want to debate borders. I'm not going to. I just want peace. I just want innocent lives to stop being treated like they're disposable. That's love. That's equality. That's the rebuild, y'all. And then, as if the violence ain't wasn't enough, you know, like shit couldn't get worse. They try to silence us, y'all. Jimmy Kimmel got suspended for speaking the truth. They canceled his show, bro. Well, guess what? Now he's back on air and he's going ham. And I love that. I love that for him, as he should. You know, it shows you that you can try to shut us up, but the truth gonna always find a mic. The truth always gonna find a voice. But while some voices get through, though, others still get buried. Social media hides Gaza posts. Algorithms still bury Trey's story. ICE still out here ripping families apart and locking kids in fucking cages. And half of America don't even fucking know. Or they're just ignoring it. Because they don't want us talking about it. And don't even get me started on Trump's dumbass. Government shutdowns, families stressing over paychecks and foods and shelter, veterans and workers left hanging. And for what? For what? His ego, division, power, money. Man, fuck Donald Trump and fuck that real talk. But here's the thing, silence ain't love, silence ain't peace, and silence is complicity. You hear that? And I refuse to be complicit. My dad and my brother didn't raise me to be quiet in the face of injustice. My brother didn't fight through cancer just for me to sit down and shut the fuck up. My wife don't stand behind me every single day just for me to bite my tongue. My future kids deserve better than that. And like I said, that's why I'm here. That's why this mic stays on, boy. That's why the rebuild project ain't going no damn where. Cause love speaks, justice speaks, truth speaks, and we ain't stopping, baby. All right, let's take a beat for a minute and jump into today's hot seat hotline. I didn't have nobody DM me directly, but I did have an individual at one of my events for my job ask me this question. We was talking about all this, and he said, "Austin, how do you keep hope alive with all this shit going on in this world, man?" And I said, "Look, man, some days it's tough as hell. Some days I feel like just giving up and screaming to the top of my lungs at the fucking world. But here's what I do know. Hope ain't pretending it's all good, bro. Hope is choosing to fight any damn way. Hope is rebellion. Hope is saying, yeah, the world's on fire, but I'm still gonna plant that damn seed." When I think about my pops, I remember how he always told me to keep pushing no matter what. When I think about my big brother, I remember how he fought through something that could have took him out easily, bro. When I think about my niece and nephew, I see the future we gotta build for them. When I think about the kids I wanna have one day, that's enough hope right there. That's my fucking reason. Hope is rebellion. Hope is love refusing to quit. And that's what the Rebuild Project is all about. So look, y'all, that's today's Hot Seat Hotline. Guys, don't be afraid. Hit my DMs, man. Ask the questions. Get the advice. You know what I'm saying? Let me help you. You know, Even if, my advice goes through one ear and out the other, at least I tried. And at least you tried. At least you tried to reach out to someone to get that advice, to get that help, to rebuild. So, like I said, don't be afraid. Hit my DMs, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram. Hit my DMs. Let's make it happen. That's it for today's Hot Seat Hotline, y'all. So, look, before I wrap things up, let me leave y'all with this, man. My politics ain't parties. My politics is peace. My politics is equality. My politics is love. My politics is making sure every tray, every kid, and every family matters the same. Listen, I know it feels like the world is falling apart sometimes. Because it is. It really is, y'all. I know it feels like our voices don't matter. Like the system's too big to fight. But let me tell you something right now. Every movement in history started with people just like us. Ordinary men and women who decided they weren't going to stay silent anymore. We can't control every headline, you're right. We can't undo every tragedy. But we can control how we show up every single fucking day. We can choose to love when the world tells us to hate. We can choose to build when the world is trying to break us down. We can choose to speak life when everybody else is speaking death. And I promise you this right now. They can try to silence us, but they would never stop us. Because our power doesn't come from one microphone, one vote, one platform. Our power comes from unity, from faith, from resilience, from refusing to quit when quitting would be the easier option. So if you're listening right now, don't give up. Don't check out. Don't let the darkness convince you that your light doesn't matter. It does. You matter. And together, we're unstoppable. And we're going to keep going. We're going to keep fighting. We're going to keep using our voices for Trey, for the kids in school, for Gaza, for the families getting torn apart by ICE, for my brother's fight, for my dad's memory, for all them silenced voices, for all my future kids and your future kids and your current kids, for everyone. We rebuild louder. We rebuild stronger. And most importantly, we rebuild with love. That's all I have for y'all today. Please go check out my Facebook page and my TikTok page. Also, I will be uploading my episodes to YouTube, as I know Spotify has been having technical issues here recently, especially with sharing links. So if you rather listen on YouTube, you can start doing that now. I want to thank you all for showing up and listening today. Like I said, this is one of my biggest, most important episodes, and I mean that. So look, this is the Rebuild Project. They can't silence us. Not today. Not ever. Until next time. Let's go, baby.